This video accompanies Learning IoT with Python and Raspberry Pi. In this lesson, you will be introduced to Python objects. Four of the most commonly used data types represent strings, integers, floating point numbers, and Boolean values. Either single quotes or double quotes may be used to delimit strings. However, the closing quote must match the beginning one. For instance, hello world. The int type represents an integer, as in 439. The float type represents a floating point number, as in 2.8908773. A bool type object can be either true or false. A fifth data type is a none type, and the single value that a none type object can have is none. The none type is useful when you wish to define a variable, but do not wish to assign a particular value to it. Consider the variables avar, bvar, cvar, dvar, and evar. There is no declaration of type. The assignment statement is enough to make avar a string type, bvar an int type, cvar a float type, dvar a bool type, and evar the none type. The built-in type function may be used to determine the type of the object. We assign learning IoT to avar, and we call the type function with avar as the argument, and string type is returned. We assign 8901 to bvar, and the type function returns int type. We assign 98.77 to cvar, and the type function returns float type. We assign true to dvar, and the type function returns bool type. We assign none to evar, and the type function returns none type. The built-in ID function may be used to determine the identity of the object, and the identity may be thought of as the address in memory. We call the ID function with avar as the argument. Every Python object has a value, a type, and an identity. We enter avar to see the value assigned to it. If a new string literal is assigned to avar, then a new object is created with the new value and a new identity. Instead of a string, an integer or a floating point number can be assigned to avar. We assign 7.77 to avar. Calling the type function returns float, and calling the ID function causes the different identity to be returned. The int type, bool type, float type, string type, and none type are immutable, which means in simplest terms that the value of an object of one of these types cannot be changed. The value of a mutable object, in contrast, can be changed. The list type and dictionary type, which are mutable, are explained in later chapters. As already seen above, when a new string with Python and Raspberry Pi was assigned to the variable avar, after avar was initially assigned learning IoT, avar was bound to a different object. Hence, the identity was different. We'll assign a new floating point number, 3.14, to avar, and check the identity of avar again. Python objects have attributes. Methods and data descriptors are two kinds of attributes. A method performs some kind of operation on the object with which it is associated, and the built-in help function can be used to get detailed information about a particular data type. At the prompt, type in avar followed by a period and press the tab key. A menu that contains the attributes associated with this float type object appears. Consider as_integer_ratio. Pressing the enter key when it is highlighted causes it to appear after avar. Pressing the enter key again causes information to be returned, specifically that it is a built-in method. Now we'll actually call the as_integer_ratio method. In order to call this method, it must be followed by parentheses. This method returns the ratio of integers that is equal to 3.14. The attributes imag and real are data descriptors. Pressing the enter key when real is highlighted causes the real part of this number to be displayed, which is just 3.14 since this number is real. Finally, we'll call the built-in help function with float passed as the argument. To find links to where the Learning IoT with Python and Raspberry Pi textbook is sold, go to the learningiot.net website.